Since the beginning of humanity, suffering has been an enigma that challenges human understanding. Why do the righteous suffer? Why does evil seem to prevail? My name is Elijah Shepherd, and today we will see how the story of Job takes us deep into these questions, but also reveals God's sovereignty and the strength of faith in the face of adversity. The book of Job begins with a unique introduction. Job is described as a man of integrity who feared God and shunned evil. He lived a prosperous life, had a united family, and possessed abundant wealth. However, the scene changes drastically when Satan appears before God, questioning Job's faithfulness. Satan argues that Job is faithful only because he enjoys blessings and divine protection. In his sovereignty, God allows Satan to test Job but sets clear limits on what he can do. This permission sets off a series of calamities in Job's life. He loses his possessions, his children, and his health in rapid succession. His losses are devastating, and even his wife, in her despair, urges him to curse God and die. Yet, in response, Job declares, "Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" His faith endures, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. However, Job's story is not just about his losses. It is also about his internal struggles. Job deeply laments, questions God's justice, and seeks answers for his suffering. He says in Job 3:11, "Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb?" Job does not hold back in expressing his pain, showing that even the most faithful can have doubts and anguish in difficult times. In the midst of this, Job's friends enter the scene. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar initially come to comfort him, but quickly turn their presence into accusations. They claim that Job's suffering is a consequence of some hidden sin, reflecting a simplistic view that God rewards the righteous and punishes the wicked. Job, on the other hand, defends his integrity and cries out for an audience with God, seeking to understand the reason for his affliction. At the height of his anguish, God finally responds. But his answer is not what Job expected. Instead of explaining the reasons for Job's suffering, God reveals his greatness, his sovereignty, and his control over all creation. He asks Job, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand." These words are not meant to humiliate Job, but to remind him that God is infinitely wise and trustworthy, even when we do not understand his ways. The story of Job teaches us profound truths about suffering and faith. First, suffering is not always a consequence of sin. Job was righteous but suffered because his faithfulness was being tested in a cosmic scenario far greater than he could imagine. This reminds us that there are spiritual dimensions beyond our limited understanding. Second, God is sovereign. Even in the worst trials, he remains in control. Job's suffering did not occur outside of God's permission, and God set clear limits on what Satan could do. This gives us assurance that even in life's storms, God is our refuge and strength. Third, suffering can draw us closer to God. Job declares at the end of the book, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." Job's experience led him to a deeper encounter with God, transforming his faith into something even more solid and real. Moreover, Job's story refutes the idea that God is indifferent to our suffering. Although God did not answer Job's questions in the way he desired, he restored Job's life, doubling all that he had lost. This points to God's faithfulness in blessing those who persevere, even when circumstances seem hopeless. Now, reflect on your own life. Are there areas where you feel you're being tested, like Job? Perhaps you are facing losses, pain, or challenges that seem inexplicable. Know that God sees every tear and hears every cry. Romans 8:28 assures us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Job's story also warns us about the importance of our words and attitudes when we see others suffering. Job's friends, despite their good intentions, erred by judging and condemning without understanding God's purpose. We must be compassionate, ready to listen, and slow to judge, reflecting the heart of Christ. Finally, remember that suffering has a purpose. James 1:2-3 encourages us, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." Suffering can shape us, strengthen us, and prepare us to receive God's blessings. Job's story is a powerful testimony that even in the darkest valleys, God is present. He not only sees what we endure, but also works to redeem and restore us. Just as Job remained faithful, we are called to trust God, even when we do not understand his ways. And you? Are you willing to say like Job, "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him"? May we learn from Job to persevere in faith, knowing that God is faithful and his goodness endures forever. My brother and sister in Christ, subscribe to this channel and help us with your like and shares. This message needs to reach more people like you. God bless you.